All right, so all of you guys had one of these that you guys made, right? And then you iterated on it, and you made it so that the angles leaned out more, and then you created a perfected version. So those are 3 steps that you guys need to learn. Okay, you need to learn why you did each step. So just as a recap, between creating the first one and the second one, we called that an iterative process of kind of reshaping the thing after we've had a chance to look at this one. Does that make sense? It's like, oh, well, God, this seems kind of flat at this end. Why don't I make it lean more? And same thing at this end. It needs to kind of lean out more to create more of an overhang. So that was the purpose in doing step number 2. The purpose in doing step number 3 was to create a clean version that didn't have all the drafting dots everywhere. It only was going to basically have a glue line or drafting dots on one edge. Okay? So now what we want to do is we want to take this thing and we want to kind of metamorphose it into another form. Okay? And what I told you guys to do is to kind of create this tapered piece that might attach to the end of it. So I've gone ahead and sort of cut that out. And I'm going to turn around so that the camera and you all can see it. But essentially it's going to kind of attach sort of like that. That's kind of the piece that I've created. Okay? And so what I want to do with this now is I want to create a wall that goes up and then a wall that goes down. Okay? So I need to create a wall on this side that's going to match this corner, right? But I want it to be higher than this corner. So let me make sure you guys can all see that. All right? And the same thing with both of these. We want to create walls that are going to kind of start at where the existing roof lines are and taper either upward or downward. If this one is down, I want this wall to go up. If this wall is higher than that one, I want it to go down. Same basic parameters. So how high was this about? Approximately? 18 feet. One side was 10 or 12 and the other one was 18 feet. Okay? And so this becomes a little bit trickier to do than what you guys had previously done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drafting dot in here so it doesn't move on me. So let me put a drafting dot here. And the reason it's trickier is because it can flex on you, right? It moves. So what we're trying to do is to get it as flat as we can. Sometimes it helps if you put a drafting dot and you have to sort of sight it so that it's flat. So I'll see if the camera can see that. So if it does this, right, if it's angling, you want to try and keep it as flat as you possibly can. Sometimes it helps to put the other drafting dot back there, and that'll kind of help to keep it somewhat flat. So what we're going to try to do with this, on one side, we can actually do the same trick we did before. We can kind of lean it and tilt it over like that. Okay, and we might be able to actually get the new side drawn. So if I'm tilting it over like that, I can maybe grab the pen and say, all right, well, one point is right there, and the other point I want to be somewhere about down in here, which is about 10 feet up from the ground here. Okay? So I'm going to try and cut that out. Now, that will work on one side, but what happens on the other side? I can't do that here, can I? Because this is kind of angling down, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I was talking about. It gets a little bit trickier. So for the opposite side, let me go ahead and do this one and see if it'll match up. I don't know if it will or won't. All right? This is a whole trial and error sort of thing. So here goes. All right, so there's that piece. So can the camera see this okay? I'm going to kind of put this here and see how it looks. And it looks like it's off a little bit, so I'm going to have to kind of futz around with it. So can you guys see the gap that's there? All right, so I'm going to have to just kind of slowly get it to be what I want it to be. So I'm going to take off a sliver here. Let's see how that fits now. It's getting closer. It needs a little bit more. Take off a little tiny bit more. Now I hold it up there. It looks like, yep, it looks like it's matching up. It's pretty close right there. You see that? The camera see that okay? All right. So I can put some tape on it, and then that kind of starts to make that form more rigid. So let me go ahead and put a couple of pieces of tape there. So I'm going to sort of hold it. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do this. Yeah. All right, I'll start with the floor. This isn't muted. Can it hear me, or it's not recording my voice? I don't know what that means. Okay, so I'm going to tilt that thing up, and I should be able to put the other dot there. Okay, so there's two of the pieces that I've created, and I'm kind of, what I'm doing is I'm taking this sort of shape that I've made and I'm extending it out. Now I want to work on the opposite side. Now it gets a little trickier, doesn't it? Because I don't know what the angle is that I need to make there. There's different ways that you can go about working with this. One of the ways is to just use a piece of material that you can hold in place here. So for example, I can take this piece of material and kind of move it into place, and I might be able to mark it in such a way that I get the angle that I'm looking for there. Okay? So I can also hold it sort of like that. So see, I'm lining it up with this edge, and then what I'm going to do is kind of rotate it around until it hits there. Right? You guys see how I'm doing that? I'm using this as the hinge point, and we'll let it rotate down, and then I'll mark that point. So all of this stuff is all trial and error, and this is where, you know, maybe doing it in the computer could be faster. Okay? So let me try and see what I can get there. I think what I'm going to do is, in order to get it to stop moving, I'm actually going to tape it in place. How many minutes are we at?
8:45.
All right, let me put one piece of tape here and try to get this thing kind of stay in place. Okay, so there, let me see if the camera can see that, is that thing staying in place. Now I can take the marker and I can draw that line down there. And I can even decide how I want my wall to angle out, and I can mark that upper point there. You see how I did that? So now once I take that thing apart, I should be able to cut it, and it should be pretty close to fitting in there. So let me go ahead and give it a try. Okay. All right, and so there is that second piece, okay? So now what's left is for me to essentially kind of put it back on the board like I did before and create the roof, and I can even tilt it down if I angle it to the edge of my table, and then create the other portion of the roof, okay? So this is your next task, is to create this sort of V-shaped pattern addition to one of the forms that you've already made. Okay? Are there any questions about that? No? All right, go ahead and stop the video.